Welcome back to Word Balloon, the comic book conversation show. John Suntress here, and yes, I'm late, but in comic books, that's kind of traditional, isn't it? It's time for my 9th anniversary episode, and thanks for your patience. Word Balloon's 9th anniversary was actually on May 10th, but I wanted to wait and make sure that my guy had time to talk to me, and it's Brian Michael Bendis. We recorded this before San Diego Comic-Con, actually, and had a great conversation about the comics market, and we get into a lot of powers talk that unfortunately doesn't have the relevance of the current directing and casting announcements that they've since made. I'm very excited about all these things, but Brian couldn't talk about that stuff with me at the time. But what we do talk about is Brian had a lot of questions for me about how I do the show and just in general about what's going on not only in the comics market, but also the way new media is responding to comics, blogs, podcasting, the like, comparing it to the old days when the comic press consisted of things like the still around Comics Journal, the things that aren't here anymore, like Comics Buyer's Guide, Amazing Heroes, Comics Interviews, some of those great magazines of the past. Even Wizard gets a shout out in this episode. And we just talk about the way comics journalism handles the subjects these days. And Brian was very nice about it, and I appreciated it. And I appreciated that he was willing to talk to me about this at length. And I think you'll enjoy the conversation that we have today on this special 9th anniversary edition of Word Balloon. It's brought to you by the League of Word Balloon listeners, and as always, it gives me the opportunity to thank you all for supporting Word Balloon via Patreon, via PayPal, as you do, and I thank you for that support.
Welcome back, Word Ballooners. This is your guest host, Brian Bendis, and I'm here interviewing, what's your name again? I'm sorry.
Ricky Ricardo.
Ricky Ricardo.
Hello, Fred.
Oh my God. So this is an excuse for you to do all your material.
It's possible. It would depend on how the conversation. So, you're driving, sir. I'm the passenger.
We are switching seats this time because we are. John is celebrating an anniversary in his head, and
I know. You and I are the only people that give a shit about, and you don't even care.
Asked me to help celebrate this, and frankly, I'm a little scared of him, and I will do so.
You're not scared of me.
I'm scared. I'm not scared of you. I'm scared that you're going to show up at San Diego dressed like Optimus Prime and start hitting people, but that's only because I have insurmountable evidence that may happen. Anyway.
Can I first say
your Optimus Prime will sound like Walter Matthau, and I think that's fantastic.
Yes, come with me, for Christ's sake. We got to take care of this. I don't even know my Transformers to even do any good references.
I know, exactly me either.
Sadly, so yeah. I mean, no, I was too old for that shit. So, can I say honestly, you're very sweet to do this because the only people you have interviewed have been for Words with Pictures, your book that's coming out in July, and that series of interviews you did for Wizard back in the day.
I only interview really famous people, so this is a huge compliment to you.
It's a huge letdown. I'm sorry. You're slumming it tonight, my man. No, I appreciate it.
So, okay, and I do have a bunch of questions. Some of I've asked you privately, but I do want to. I hear in your questions, even listening to the Jonathan Hickman interview the other day, which I quite enjoyed.
I'm glad you listened. Go on.
And in it, I hear an underlying in the tone of the questions, an underlying frustration with I won't say the industry, but I guess with distribution. You have a lot of frustration with getting how people get their stuff out there. Did you catch that in your questions?
That's really interesting. No, I wouldn't say it's a frustration.
I would say this. It's more like you're climbing up a hill full of molasses, and you just want to make sure everyone else is too. If you just tell me that everything is shitty for you too, so I can go back to work, and then you're fine.
You are hilarious. That is so funny. No, I'm fascinated by. I just think this is a really interesting time, and this is something that's come out in our conversations, obviously. Yes. And I do there is a thread. There is a common thread when I do questions, and it is like, what are you doing in the mainstream? How is it helping you do what you want to do? And yes, I do feel a kinship to that because I work in the mainstream of radio, and I do a podcast to satisfy my creative ideas and the way I would do, a conventional radio talk show if the platform was there. But I am also genuinely satisfied that this new media exists. And, 9 years later, I'm really happy with where the show is. I obviously wanted to keep pushing forward, but I think that keeps you humble and wanting to do more and improve. And I think that's like a good creative desire.
Here's what I'm gonna blow you pretty good here. So sit back and put your hands up and enjoy. Your show as print or word journalism of our industry deteriorates almost completely. The content of your show and a couple shows like it, but sadly only a couple others, fill an immense void in what was this great trifecta of Amazing Heroes, Comic Buyer's Guide, and Comics Journal. Would all cover between all that and the tomorrow's publications and stuff and the Fantico stuff. There was good documentation of who was doing what and why they were doing it. You know what I mean? And when I was, a kid, if I wanted to find out why Frank Miller was doing what Frank Miller was doing, I could find it, right?
Yep.
And all of those, including Wizard, which also sometimes when people always remember the nonsense, but they did dedicate about a third of that magazine to real stuff.
Yes, sir.
All of it's gone. It's all gone. So, and the websites are about 80% hit and run interviews or promotion. And I participate in them and I'm as guilty as everyone. But it's sad that the true let's find out what makes Jonathan Hickman tick. The only place you're going to find that is on your show. Oh. And I was thinking about that. Like, I know John, and I didn't realize. So if I want to find out what's making John tick, I can call him. But I didn't realize how infrequent he had been online in his interviews until he had said that. I'm like, yeah, shit, man, he has closed the door. So but I find it interesting that your show he opened up so much because he went from not wanting to talk to anybody about anything and talking to you about everything, and I thought that was very interesting. And so you should take a lot of, and it's not just the show; it's you and how you run it. And this inquisitiveness mixed with lack of judgment is a very rare thing, and I think that's why so many creators gravitate to you, and you should be proud of that.
That's very kind. I appreciate that, and it means a lot that you guys understand what I'm trying to do, yeah. And it sounds like you do, and yeah, believe me, it truly is an honor that you guys think enough of me to come on and open the hood and really talk about this stuff. And yeah, and honestly, John is right there with yourself, with Brubaker, with Fraction, with Rucka, Wade. I mean, guys that are honestly willing to come on and speak as earnestly as they do about their work and where the business is.
Yeah, and it's very cool. And knowing, what it is, so much of us, and I've been the victim of it a few times, where a sentence will be taken out of context and blabbed all over the internet, right? And to paint a picture, but that sentence is inaccurate on its own. And on your show, we can talk the talk, unedited, and without it being a blurb or a bullet point. And that's a relief to me, because I like a guy like Greg Rucka. Guy has very complicated thoughts. One sentence ain't going to do it.
Yes.
He's very conflicted about a lot of things. So a show like yours is where it's got to be, but it's got to be like the right host, and he's got to be given the time to do it. So let me ask you this: other than Jeff Loeb, who was the worst interview you had?
Jeff is going to hear this.
Jeff knows I love him, but Jeff also knows that if he puts the phone away from his mouth for like an inch, we can actually hear him clearer. when I was doing a witching hour, I was having a very good time. That's my Jeff Loeb on your show invitation.
That's my friend who takes a lot of pictures that I allow on Facebook and Twitter and stuff. She was saying the same thing the other night. She's like, "Will you move back from the phone? I could barely understand you." I'm like, "All right, sorry." I will tell you who, and I will name names because I don't think he'll ever come back because every time I see him at San Diego, he seems pained to see me. And I will say, Marv Wolfman.
Oh, really?
I will. Hey, man, for this, I will say it.
Right.
I will break.
Oh, that's interesting. I don't think I heard that show. How did that show go?
It was early in 2006, and coming from sports radio, I was comfortable, and I think honestly, it afforded me the good graces of you guys right away, where it's like, oh, this guy seems to know what he's doing when it comes to an interview. And frankly, as I always say, if you caught me 10 years earlier in my radio career, it would have been the Chris Farley show. It would have been. Do you remember that thing you did?
Yeah. No, I talked about when I fucked up my David Mamet interview. It was the Chris Farley show.
There you go.
Remember when you made Homicide? That was awesome.
So, and by the way, great Studs Terkel interview with Mamet. I think I shared the link with you.
I have it on my list of a million things to read.
There you go. So it's actually to listen to. It's a podcast. It's a radio interview, but it's great. Anyway, Marv was like, and obviously we went through the greatest hits and stuff like that, and we got to Crisis on Infinite Earths. And I'm like, so, why the timing? Why then and stuff? And he's like, this has all been very covered in books and forwards to a million reprints. And I'm tired of talking about it and whatever. And at one point I go, hey, was it inevitable that Marv Wolfman would be writing Werewolf by Night? And he went, no. And I'm like, all right, then moving on, and luckily I had a stack of questions to ask. The great thing was he did a DVD interview with this guy who really did some interesting interviews with other comic creators. And I can't remember the name of the series, but if you look on Amazon, I'm sure you'll be able to find this thing. And the DVD is totally worth getting and watching.
Which DVD is it?
Can't remember the name of it.
All right.
But it's a guy who's done screenwriting interviews, and he
Tales from the Screenplay, or
possibly he was at Jeff Johns' workstation, and Jeff showed his hydraulic desk, so he doesn't need a chair and stuff like.
Okay, no, I don't think I saw this. Okay,
it was really good, and I know he talked to Wade and a few other people. Well. He talks to Marvin. It's like, so tell me the origin story of, Crisis on Infinite Earths. Oh, it's actually a very fascinating story. I'm like, oh, sure, you got Mr. Big Shot, Mr. DVD, who's got a camera crew. Now you're opening up and stuff, And, we were 20 minutes in. I got to go to the bathroom. How much longer is this thing going to be? And I'm like, all right. And really, ever since, and again, that was early enough for me where I'm like, all right, let's remind first-timers that tell them how long it's going to be and stuff. So I'll own up a little responsibility for that. But yeah, ever since then, when I see Marv Wolfman, I'm like the tax man. He is like, I am the last person he wants to see. And because he really liked Art and Franco's Tiny Titans and really, truly does like their stuff. And they're my friends. So a lot of times in San Diego or at a big con, we're hanging out. And then, John Sutters from Word Balloon. Oh, yeah, hi, how are you? I'm like, oh, man, he's not happy to see me. The good news, though, is a lot of his peers from that same era, Len Wein, Marty Pasco, and certainly our mutual god, Walt Simonson, are incredibly gracious every time they see me and very sweet. So that's okay. No worries. It's a big enough world. I mean, that's the thing. Ramita Senior turned me down flat, and this was early on. It was at that New York show, the Zombie New York show back in 2006.
Oh, yeah.
When they locked down the room and stuff like that. Yeah. And Johnny, Johnny Jr. could not be sweeter. And it's like, I'll talk to my dad, John. We'll work it out. And I'm like, all right, no worries. And I'm like, if not, that's okay. I mean, that's the thing. It's all right. But yeah, I'll be honest. That was the most painful and disappointing where I'm like, oh, I was really looking forward to, pick Marv's brain. But yeah, he doesn't want his brain picked, which is fine.
Yeah, no, it's weird. Sometimes guys.
We're not playing well tonight.
No worries. We're rolling again. Brian had a couple internet hiccups, so
yay, Comcast! Woohoo! Internet monopoly. Let's play together. Anyway,
I was just listening to Al Franken complain about the Comcast Time Warner merger on a C-SPAN show. How's my social life doing? Go on.
Well, were you masturbating to it? I mean, what does that mean? Anyway.
A little bit.
No, listen, who can blame you? Anyway. All right, so we buried Marv Wolfman. Who else can we bury?
yeah, no, like that. But no, the nice thing is, like I said,
Actually, I was going to say, these guys, they answer a question 10 times, and you think that everyone in the world's heard the answer, and that's just not the case. And really, if someone asks you a question, you should answer the question. And just answer it. It doesn't hurt. It takes just as much energy to answer the question as to say, I'm not going to answer the question. So I know sometimes people will hit me with, I heard that story before or something. Like, you said that in an interview before. And I'm like, well, that's the question the person asked. I can't make up a new answer just to entertain you somewhere. I don't know who you are. You know what I mean? Someone asks a question, I'm going to answer it. It's just the polite thing to do. But so I get the instinct of, I don't want to repeat myself. But someone asks you a question, answer the question. There you go.
Yeah, what are you going to do? That's all right. And like I said, I'm persona non grata, I think, every time.
Okay, and then other than Jeff Loeb, who is the best who's the most impressive? Obviously, I'm excluding myself from this.
Okay, because I mean, honestly, I appreciate your candor. Well, I mentioned earlier the list, and
I've clearly set the tone of which all other creators must abide by. I'm going to remove myself just based on that. I'm going to remove myself from.
You were you were the first to jump in the pool and kind of be like that. Rucka was as well, very early on.
Yes.
It was awesome.
And so was Jeff, and Jeff was as well.
Absolutely.
And Jeff, I thought, was a guy, to be serious, just a guy who doesn't do a lot of press either. In fact, shies away from a great deal of it, and looked to you for what as I described before, a place where he can fairly describe and explain himself.
Absolutely, and really too, it was still fresh that Sam had passed away, his son.
Yeah.
And he was really, and that's the thing that I appreciate about all of you guys. Again, is the candor of, I'm still trying to figure this out myself, and it's when I hear comedians talk about the current wave of comedians and how the honesty of their lives has to be part of their act. And in their cases, they're performing, but it also is like cathartic, I think. And it really, I appreciate that these guys are also, like you, the creative people I speak to, all of you, are willing to go, I'm still trying to figure it out. And this is an emotional thing, a personal thing that I'm going through that is kind of stumbling. So again, it's not one person. It really is.
Yeah.
Like Fraction is like that. And Hickman is like that. And Rucka and new people. Riley Brown, the artist that works on a lot of Marvel Infinite comics, and God damn it, I'm forgetting his. Is it Pro? I forget the name of his creator-owned book, but he is like one of these guys that really understands where digital comics are right now, in the same way that Peter Krause does with Mark Waid at Thrillbent, and really can articulate the layering of the art and how swiping is like what you need to do to make art interesting when someone is swiping the panel versus panel progression, looking at a static page. Everything that Scott McCloud said in Understanding Comics, now there is, even what Scott wrote about digitally and stuff, there is new thinking, as you know yourself. And it's really great to hear from those people as well. Sam Humphries is a new guy that I'm pleased and is very candid about how he writes and how he addresses today's market needs and stuff. So I find that stuff interesting.
Yeah, I like Sam. Sam and I have become friendly over the last couple of years. But I will listen. I don't think I listened to that Riley Brown one. I will check it out. See, that's why I asked, because I know it's always one that probably didn't get the spotlight that you wanted to get. And you're like, well, that was a nice surprise. But you kind of have to tell people that it's a nice surprise, so I definitely want to hear that.
Excellent. No, and that's the great thing. The current new wave, the Charles Soules and the Ed Brissons and the Dennis Hopelesses and these guys. And, by the way, we also left another great, amazing guy that Hickman certainly acknowledged is at the top of his game right now, Jason Aaron. That's the thing. It really is. I appreciate that their willingness to talk. And when you said like no judgment and stuff, it's because I felt the same way when I was covering sports. It's, I'm a blade of grass in a giant field, and what I think, or even the times that I have voiced, like, I think the monthly, issue price is too high and stuff. I've appreciated you guys being willing to talk about that and give your perspective on that. But again, what I'm going to say or think really doesn't make a difference. And also, I'm an observer. I mean, I really do believe. I hate saying the word journalism. I do journalism with a small J. I'm not out for a big exclusive. I'm not here to, scoop or spoil stories or anything like that. I am fascinated by what's happening in the market. I think certainly, especially in the last 10 years, the growth of the companies that own Marvel and DC and the exploitation, and I mean that in the most mechanical sense, of the heroes in television and film alongside comics, it's changing the game all around. And whatever happens, and I think it's as fascinating to see something that is executed and not received well by the market as it is when something great happens. And again, it's great that people are willing to talk about the ones that misfire. And again, without any jumping, just go, okay, what do you think went wrong? How do you think this didn't come out the way you intended? Because everyone's trying to hit a home run. Everyone wants a hit. Everyone wants a book that's read and a movie that's seen and a television show that's seen. So what went wrong this time? Interesting.
Yeah, it's funny. The one thing Jonathan said that he was kind of being facetious about, that you got to know Jonathan to know that he was just being coy, was when he said, I wish I could do more than the first draft. And of course he does more. You should see what he does. You know what I mean? We've joked about the notebooks and notebook after notebook after notebook. And, clearly you read this stuff. This is not first draft material. There's no, but he was, it's always, but there's always that one more draft. You know what I mean? There's always, you always want that one more draft. And I think that's what he was joking about. And I saw some people online not understanding that he only does one draft and fuck him. And they're like, oh no, come on. Clearly he was joking. Come on. So. Right,
but it again, and I can appreciate the company, specifically what Marvel wants to do with this double shipping, but it is an interesting kind of extra level of time to make the donuts, and you don't have time, and you got to work on not only the current story that's out there.
No, that's
but
true.
Also,
no, listen, I'm not saying that. I'm completely with you completely. It just, it's that version of
that literal, like you said, that literal.
Aha! And like, no, aha! Shut up, aha.
Well, honestly, and I remember when you and Kirkman were talking about Kirkman's manifesto and back and forth you guys had, and back then I was working, as I always say, I didn't work for Newsarama, I worked with Newsarama, and really, I miss Matt Brady. And honestly, Mike Doran, Matt Brady, great guys.
Yep.
It was a really nice time when I would post my stuff over there, and also they would ask for transcripts. And I always hated doing transcripts because, as you know, it's really a pain in the ass, and that's what's kept me from, releasing the Word Balloon book, which eventually will happen.
Yeah. What's going on with that? Oh,
no, it's in process. It's in process. It's just I don't know where to stop, frankly. And we'll get to that in a second, and we can follow up on that. But
yeah, it's a tough one. I just having finished a book of my own like that. It has some similarities. You're like, well, I could go on another 500 pages. And then you go, yeah, but then it's not entertaining at all.
Well, or shit changes. Or shit, the game changes.
Yeah.
The digital game is very different today than what it was in 2010.
But I find that stuff interesting in perspective, though. I hear you.
But where do you stop? Because now, I want to include that too.
Yep.
And really, I mean, I'm a kid in a candy store. Oh, I want that. Oh my God, Riley Brown was just amazing. I had to make room for that.
Well, I must say, I would maybe do a website annex. Like here's the greatest hits, and then here's
what's happening.
The stuff that if you are really into that stuff, here's some more. That's kind of what I'm doing with my book, where I have my books coming, and then I have another Tumblr completely dedicated to just as much stuff. So.
Oh, should I? And shame on me because I'm only at wherever you post your images and stuff.
No,
so
I have another Tumblr called Words for Pictures that is all process.
Oh my God, I'm totally going to follow that.
You talk about masturbating. You are going to love this. And it's literally everything I find on Tumblr or online that is anything to do with anybody talking about their process.
I like that.
Some stuff
that's
I
excellent.
disagree with wholeheartedly. Some stuff is mandatory. All the YouTube stuff of Kirby and all those guys are on there.
Yes.
Yeah, you're gonna like.
Oh man, this gives me an excuse to promote that. I'm showing that 1978 comics documentary, and if I've never sent you the link, I will.
Please do. Which documentary is this?
It was made by Canadian Television. I presented this at C2E2 2 or 3 years ago, and I'm really thrilled that San Diego wants to do it as well. It's a Canadian. It's a half-hour show called Behind the Scene from 1978 or 79. Jonathan Winters narrates it, and it's a behind-the-scenes look at DC and Marvel. And it was distributed by this New York film company that back in the day, because we had them in Chicago as well, would distribute films and and I'm assuming it was like, hey, this would be great to show to an art class, and if kids have an aptitude for cartooning, let's see what it's like to work at DC and Marvel. And it's 1978, and you got Archie Goodwin and Stan going over, and I don't want to spoil it because it'll if people will know if they heard the previous show. I'll tell you off the air, but they're going over designs for a new Marvel hero that was debuting around that time. Stan and Archie Goodwin. You got, and I've later learned that it was a recreation of a story session between Julie Schwartz, Denny O'Neil, and Neil Adams for Superman versus Muhammad Ali. And Neil has told me, no, we did that after the fact, and we did it, to just kind of demonstrate how it would happen for the cameras and stuff.
Wow.
But it's great. And that particular clip I do have on YouTube, so if you search around from that, you'll find it. And it's only about 2 minutes and stuff. Because I'm really hinky about, I don't own it, and I make that very clear. I do not own this, and I've really searched hard to find the rights. Guys like Tom Fowler tell me, every now and then it still shows up on Canadian television, and I'm like, yeah, I have not been able to find who owns this. So I am really just like, okay, this is just at the con, let's show it. Okay, great.
Yeah,
and
cool.
let's talk about it. But yeah, Wade is going to be on the panel with me because he'll be able to provide context. But the DC hotline is on there. Remember the DC telephone hotline?
Yeah.
Yeah,
nice.
And stuff like that,
Nice, cool.
and great con footage. So yeah, it's this really amazing little time capsule and stuff. And yeah, I love that Mobius and Neil Adams and whoever else is drawing together. It was Joe Kubert.
Oh yeah.
So I'm thrilled that stuff's out there, and I love that stuff. I agree, or even like local news channels and stuff. We're talking to EC Comics legend, blah blah blah, and they have no idea who they're talking to. It's 3 minutes or whatever, but it's awesome. I love shit like that.
Cool.
All right, anyway.
That's awesome.
What else are you? All right.
Did we break up? I don't know what happened.
No, we're good. We're good. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I heard you. You're good. I did. Send me the link. I don't want to see it.
Oh, absolutely. Move on.
Definitely.
So yeah, we'll move on.
All right, cool. So let's see. Okay, so what would you say is, other than digital, is the thing you've seen change the most in the years that you've been doing the podcast? I mean, what's the the thing that you go, you don't see that anymore, or you're seeing that a lot than I never saw before?
I don't know what's disappeared. I'd have to think about that, but I know what I was saying before about now that Marty Pascal put it best, and he was quoting Barton Fink when I forget who's desperate and telling Turturro, you don't understand, the producer, he's got an interest in us. He's got an interest in us. And I really think that, and Frank Miller actually even did it for the Harvey Awards in his in his keynote speech, talking about how Hollywood is now interested. Well, it's more that they're interested. It's gone from, Legendary Films optioning Batman from DC and making the movies to Warner Brothers taking control. Or certainly, obviously, a better example is you guys on the Marvel movie panel really guiding the destiny of these characters. And truly, because you're part of the mix, not only on the Marvel movie panel, but writing the comics and stuff, really interested to see where Guardians of the Galaxy is going to go.
Right.
This is a very interesting time, and it started with the first Iron Man.
I got to tell you, I emailed Kevin Feige the other day because on Thursday my daughter Olivia finished 5th grade, and we hosted the class party to come over here and hang out on pizza and high five each other.
Awesome.
And that meant the boys came over, and we don't, she's in 5th grade, so we don't see the boys a lot. And they came over and they kind of, some of them completely flipped out when they saw my office. It's like about fifth grade is what this is what you imagine being the coolest office of all time, and it was hilarious. They go, "You have an Xbox and a PlayStation." Anyway, so I rate video games and I work for PlayStation. Anyway, so it's hilarious. And then they saw all my books. There's like a big bookshelf of books and they, oh my God, you wrote all these. And I go, please, can we have some? I'm like, of course, sure. What do you want? Take what you want. All they wanted was Guardians of the Galaxy. There's Avengers.
Get out of here.
I swear to Jesus, there's Avengers, Spider-Man, and X-Men, and all the other crap. And they went fucking nuts when they saw it was Guardians of the Galaxy. And and they were like, oh my God, we get to find out about Rocket before the movie. And it was all of them. And they scrambled for them like they attacked them like World War Z zombies. And it was so crazy that I had to tell the studio, I go, whatever you guys are doing, they're all in. They can't get there fast enough, right? And I thought it was pretty cool. Hilariously, as the kids were leaving, the mother takes one of the Guardians trays, and the fifth grader yells at her, "Fingerprints!" And I thought, well,
get out of here.
There is a customer. I know that guy. I know that guy grows up to be.
That's fantastic. Well, that's why I haven't read it yet, but I'm going to be talking, as we're recording this, to Sam Humphries in 2 days about the Star-Lord book. And also, I listen, and one of the shows that I do think does a good job of covering what's going on week to week, and they do it's more of a news show rather than, but they have their moments of analysis as well, and I don't want to slight them. But Heidi McDonald's show for Publishers Weekly, and they were discussing Guardians.
I haven't listened to it. Is it good?
Yeah, I like it.
Oh.
It's called Publishers Weekly Comics World, More to Come, and it's Calvin Hill, Heidi McDonald, and their producer talking. And Calvin and Heidi do a great job of covering not only the mainstream, but really do as good of a job covering the mainstream as they do on literary comics, or however you would describe,
the fancy comics. Yeah.
The fancy comics, exactly. And that was and they were just saying that the Guardian books are not going through the roof as far as sales, at least. And maybe that's I don't know. All right then. I don't know. But they were saying
again, everyone's these fucking diamond lists. You know what I mean?
Well, okay, because they've got
is such an inconsequential part.
Okay, because they've got access to the book scan numbers as well, and that's I don't know. I don't know, but they said Rocket's numbers, obviously Scotty's Rocket Raccoon book, crazy, nuts, and that's mostly diamond.
No, but actually, that was half of that was Loot Crate bought 150,000 of them.
What is Loot Crate, man?
I got one of these for Hanukkah, so I happen to be a member of Loot Crate. But
tell me about Loot Crate.
Loot Crate is you get a box every month, like a little crate, and you open it up, and it's just crammed full of nerdy shit, and it's themed.
Get the fuck out of here.
So one time it'll be all Dungeons and Dragons, and one time it'll be all zombies, and blah blah blah. And I guess we got something either space or Guardians related coming. And they have like literally 150,000 subscribers.
Crazy.
To this thing. It's a great nerd present. It really is. I'm very hard to shop for because I get so much of this for free, or I just buy it myself. You know what I mean? Like you can't buy me comics, and this one made me go, oh, look at this. You know what I mean? And I actually discovered a couple of mini comics I would not have discovered enough for this thing. So
that's excellent. Yeah. The thing that has gone away is, and again, it's that imperative that is in all business, and that is, it seems like, the quarterly numbers matter for everything, and everything's got to make a profit. The willingness to, stick with a book longer, and it is disappointing sometimes that and this happens in movies, or rather in television as well, where there's a really interesting, story being developed. And this goes back to, I remember Bruce Jones's Kingpin series that came and went very quickly back in the Jemis and Joe Q days.
Did it not finish? I thought it finished. Why do I think it finished?
And maybe it didn't. Shame on me if that's the case. I remember when Remender, did Dr. Voodoo.
No, Dr. Voodoo was one. Dr. Voodoo got hit early.
Yeah.
But again, they just comes out a number, and again, this is none of the creator's fault.
Sure.
But he just comes at a number where if they pull the plug, it's they got to pull the plug.
Oh yeah, and hey Matt, it happened with Matt and Terry Dobson for Christ's sake with their Defenders book.
Doing the same fucking hilarious shit he's doing on Hawkeye, so go figure that out.
Yep.
Listen,
absolutely.
To talk about no one knows anything, right?
Yeah.
So hilarious.
So we shrug and it's okay, and I understand. So yeah, that's kind of a change because when we were younger and stuff in the 80s and 90s, there were a lot of midline books. Captain Marvel would go on for
truthfully
4 or 5
though,
years.
I gotta say there's always been these. There's always been books we're just peeking our heads on some of these charts. But there's always been books that went away really fast.
Yeah.
Always.
Omega, the whatever the hell it was, the Jonathan Lathan, the Steve Gerber book that Jonathan Lathan dusted off and tried to bring back.
Which one?
Omega, what? I can't remember the name of it. Wasn't it Omega the Destroyer or the Conqueror or whatever the hell it was? The extra cheese guy?
Oh yeah, no, they finished that too though. That was just like a miniseries.
Oh, but I'm saying the original run.
Oh, okay.
To go.
Yeah. That. But listen, I'm still waiting for them to finish Sonic Disruptors at DC.
Exactly.
There's a 12-issue miniseries. It went 8 issues. I went, what? You can't finish it. It must have really not done well. And I thought it was great. So I was
there you go.
So I was confused. I didn't know how it was doing. I didn't care. But you'll see, I guess, more as it comes out. But yeah, the numbers on the Guardians books are particularly the collections are quite amazing. And
cool.
My wife has gone from you left Avengers to do what to going, hey, good call.
Yeah, no shit. Yeah, exactly.
Believe me when I told her I'm leaving Avengers to do the raccoon book.
You're what?
Yeah, exactly. Because I need to pull out the flow charts and explain this to you. I'm like, no, you'll see. But I'm. It's just so nice to see enthusiastic kids all in, and these characters that are the definition of a hard sell. But it just shows you that there's no such thing as a hard sell. The end. That argument's over. There's they come in.
As we're talking about current stuff and everything, let me throw a question to you. Because the question of it's certainly what's been going on with the Ant-Man movie, and again, I don't think it's anyone's fault, and it seems like everything has, things parted amicably and stuff. But the question came up, and I'll even credit Heidi's show for articulating this, but it's something that I've talked to with our mutual friend Matt Singer, the movie critic, and others about movies and stuff like that. The auteur theory, and Gabe Hardman and Hilary Barta, two film friends that are smart comic guys as well. And I know that there is no single voice in making a film. And if you could speak in general terms, because you have worked directly with the Branas, the Favreaus, guys that are pedigree directors, the Whedons.
I'm gonna not talk about that directly because I don't want even the an accidental misinterpretation of he's clearly talking about this guy, which I would not be, but I'll just talk in the general sense, okay? Because I'm working on the Powers, the TV show now, and it's a process that's gone from just me and Mike, just us, nobody else. And Mike was, as we've talked about in the past, drew those first 3 issues of Powers in a security booth in New Jersey at 3:00 in the morning.
Yeah,
all right, He's gone from that to a multi-million-dollar production that
has his name on
it with collaborators, with many dozens, if not hundreds, of collaborators, and we haven't started filming it. And so it is, if anything, expresses to me the difference between the two machines, but all going towards a similar goal. It is that. All right. There is a way to be an auteur in comics, and that is to write and draw your own stuff. But once you're past doing, and I've done that. I've done the lettering, and so I know that feeling. But once you invite someone else in, i.e., I'll say for this instance, like Mike Oeming, it is not an auteur; it is a collaboration. Period. And even if one has a seemingly strong voice and one doesn't, then that also can be an illusion and not true at all. But it's still a collaboration. You're getting so, and then every time you add someone else into the mix, it's more of a collaboration now. And collaboration is an art unto itself. And there's pluses and minuses for being alone in a room and doing your comics, and collaborating. I have, after years of doing alone in my room, have decided that collaborating was much more of a powerful experience for me, and much more a magical experience. And by magical, I mean is like you can do everything right and it still blows up in your face, and you could fuck it all up and it turns out great. And that could be seem almost like a gambling addict, kind of like, you know, you keep rolling the dice to see what happens, but it's such a magical experience, you cannot be attracted to it, you know. And as more and more people and more money gets involved, there's more and more of a collaboration. And as I've witnessed through, and a lot of this has happened during my time on the creative committee at Marvel, where I have a back seat to watch some great storytellers collaborate, and to watch someone like Joss Whedon take notes and turn them into gold, and with seemingly ease, with seeming grace and charm. Like, he may go home and kill his fish. I don't know what he does when he gets home, but watching him handle the immensity of what's in front of him with just style is very inspiring to me, and I try to bring that with me. And not just him, there's other people I watch do it as well, and people inviting all. You know, I want to hear every thought on a subject, and that's kind of what I saw Kenneth Branagh do, where he was asking everybody, like, for everyone's opinion on everything, and then he would take it in and make his decisions, right? And knowing that he's not, you know, an auteur is making something for themselves, or at least of tricking themselves into thinking that. I don't think that's ever true. The only auteur I know that really does that is Steve Ditko, because he won't show us any of his work, right? And that guy don't care. Everybody else, if you're putting your work out, you care. You care what people think, and you want people to like it. And if you're making a franchise big summer hoo-ha, you're aiming at everybody, right? And having done the Marvel events, you know that's to be true. I'm writing for a large audience. I'm not writing, just for myself and to muse my attraction, right?
Right.
So when you see a guy taking all information in and making his choices based on this information, that's also very inspiring and fascinating to me. So that I think is what happens. And there's some people who do it magically and with grace, and there's some people who do it screaming and yelling, right? And I've never witnessed anyone screaming and yelling, you know, but you do know it happens. We've seen the documentaries and stuff. Yes, I was the writer of the Spider-Man musical for 2 weeks, so I guess I did see it happen. But my point is that my long term, it's again, this is one of those complicated things to me. But when you're working on a big stage, you have to act accordingly, and that's what's going on. And I always find it interesting when you're asking a corporation to write you a check for millions of dollars. You're a fool if you don't think they're going to want accountability for it. You know, that it's foolish. It's nuts. You know what I mean? Crazy.
Sure.
So I can't imagine having any respect for the people who would write you a check for that and just walk away. You're like, really? You don't care? You're nuts. You know. So so when you're getting to spend a lot of someone else's money, you're going to have to answer a lot of questions, and you better have damn good answers. The end. So this is I tend to lean more towards not villainizing the companies, because so many people do, and kind of that brash kind of anti-authoritative nonsense, you know, like,
yes.
The company's evil, and no, it's not. You know what I mean? There's just as much shitty auteur comics and independent movies than there are, corporate, collaborative, whatever. You know what I mean? And the only difference is you don't see those shitty independent comics and movies. They disappear into the ether. But there's tons of them anyway. And for every time, I'll tell you, when I do see like a truly original like summer movie that has a person's voice on it, or the illusion of a voice, even though it's the work of dozens of people, I'm in such admiration of it. All the things that have to happen right, and all the right hires. And again, it's hiring the right people more than it is even the collaboration, but hiring all the right people to do all the right things.
Yes.
Edge of Tomorrow, which is probably the worst marketed movie in the history of mainstream cinema. What a fabulous movie this is.
This is what I'm hearing. Go on.
It's just a fabulous, is Matrix good? Matrix 1 good?
Yeah.
Kind of sci-fi movie. And I'm a hard sci-fi audience, man. I'm a tough audience.
We've seen it all.
And bad sci-fi. I have no interest. I blanked in 2 seconds.
Interesting.
I just got bored instantly. But this was a legitimately good movie, and which I had no idea where it was going the whole time, and was constantly surprised and delighted. And as I was watching it, I said, boy, look at all the things that went right. And it just smells of like good editing choices and good acting choices and good screenplay. Just everything smelled right, and when you see that with that amount of money being spent, you go, wow, what a pile of right that is. That's very impressive. It's so much harder to do than anyone can even imagine.
Interesting. And, I've mentioned this book on the podcast before, I don't think with you. It's called Five Came Back, Mark Harris. And it's about the 5 World War II filmmakers that left Hollywood after Pearl Harbor, went in the Special Services Unit. And it's Frank Capra, John Huston, John Ford, William Wyler, and George Stevens, who all were classic film directors. And they, just as today, were butting heads with studios and leaving studios because they didn't get their way. So the auteur question has always been out there. And Gabe Hardman, the excellent artist, is the first to say, because he's a film storyboard artist who worked on Edge of Tomorrow, by the way, as well, is the first to say the auteur theory is a myth in film.
I do. I think it is a myth. I mean, like you think of Wes Anderson and a couple of others with a very strong signature. And boy, I cannot recommend. He put out the Wes Anderson book this year. I cannot recommend this book higher enough because Wes Anderson is a director that I think is just a precious filmmaker. That every little inch of that screen is so purposefully placed, right?
Yes.
And then you read the book, and it's like every fucking accident in the world.
Wow.
Like, oh, no, I'm amazed that was in focus. Like mistake after mistake that he incorporated into the work, and you're like, God damn, that's even more impressive. You didn't mean that?
Theory.
God,
yeah. Happy accidents. Yeah. And Friedkin is the guy who said everything that you just said, that 1,000 things have to go right for a movie to be a success. 1,000 things.
Yeah, and as I get older and I just get more and more impressed by it, and having been able to spend some time behind the scenes, again, sometimes very behind the scenes, like at the creative committee or right up front, like I am on Powers. And Powers is a Sony production. This is as corporate as you can get. The people who are making the show at the corporate level are not stupid. They're very intelligent. They're very good at their jobs. And they know what, you know what I mean? These are guys who made Breaking Bad. So you listen to them, and so when you hear about like some directors, sometimes they just get frustrated with the whole thing, right? The maneuvering gets to be too much for some people. I think some of the directors you were talking about, after a while, they just go, all right, already, stop giving me tests and stuff, just let me do what I want. And they forget the big picture, which is that, if you want to go do what you want, pay for it yourself.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And Francis Ford Coppola is as guilty as that as anybody. He spent his own money on ridiculous things sometimes, but then you don't have to answer. You don't want to answer anybody. Do it yourself. And I do that. I do. I'm doing a book right now. Me and Mike, we're just doing Murder Incorporated. I don't have to talk to anybody.
Yes, indeed. Absolutely. And again, those filmmakers, even from the 40s, because they were fed up with the studio systems, they did become independent producers.
Right.
That's what Capra did post World War II, to name one. And Jimmy Cagney got sick of the studio system, and spent a decade making his own movies.
Yep.
So yeah, it isn't anything new, and that's why to let people know that are interested in those subjects, and to be surprised that what's new and seems new now, or new conflicts, really aren't.
On since someone had money and someone didn't.
Right, and since Edison filmed The Kiss and said, "Hey, Edison, you don't like Jewish people, do you? I don't know if I want to work with you anymore."
we Jew showed him. Anyway. So no, but it is a very interesting thing. I see that it even in our business, in the industry, there's it's very cool to shit on corporate work. You know what I mean? Like, why do you do that? I'm like, 'cause I like the characters. I like it. It's an honor to me, and if it's not an honor to you, then you shouldn't do it. But it is an honor to me, so I should do it. But they'll poo-poo corporate stuff, yet beg fans for money on Kickstarter. It's a weird, you know what I mean? It's
yes.
It is a weird line in the sand that everyone's got to make their own decision on. I'm not poo-pooing anybody's choices, but I always find dichotomy of it a little odd, a little off.
Agreed.
You know what I mean?
I do.
So, or they'll work for, they won't work for DC, but they'll work for Coca-Cola. Like Coca-Cola's never done anything bad to anybody.
Yeah. I understand.
Anyway.
Yeah. No, it's interesting.
Everyone's got their own line in the sand. So, yeah, and I don't poo-poo it. I just, crawl out of my nose. That's all I'm saying.
Fair enough. Well,
but the point of all this is I want to talk about everyone making fun of me at E3. So
yeah, I would love to talk about that. No, absolutely. No, honestly. Hey,
fucking assholes. Let me tell you something. I don't know if you were witness to the clip of me on the gigantic stage at the LA Sports Arena.
As soon as David Mack shared it, I picked up David's
Thank you.
Yes. Dude, you know it. I'm thrilled for you and Mike and everything that's going on, and fascinated. Again, another new wrinkle of what's happening in comics, and as it is exploited in other media, and now on a completely new platform.
Well, and I think you can dig up me talking about this like in 2008. Where I said very clearly, I'm confused why movies are what are scooping up comics, because the sister storytelling medium to comics is television.
Yep.
Because we're a cliffhanger industry, more or less.
Right, episodic.
We're episodic. We're a big pile of cliffhangers. I just read a bunch of indie books and it was cliffhanger after cliffhanger. You know what I mean? Like, no matter how crazy people they always get that cliffhanger to get the new issue in. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's, that's what television's business is. And it just seemed that the long-form storytelling is more in tune with what we're doing. So it's hilarious to me that literally there's not a network that's not going to have a comic book themed or comic book inspired show on its air. And that's cool, but this is what I thought was going to happen instead of all the movies. I still think Spider-Man would be a better TV show than a movie franchise. I just do.
Sure.
So anyway, it's crazy, and it's opened up all kinds of unique and different experiences in my life. All the time it's going on, including them inviting me to. They said, we want you to take the stage at E3.
Yes.
And tell everyone the show is greenlit. And I'm like, well, and it's funny because one of the presidents of Sony did say in the Wall Street Journal that the show was greenlit a few months ago, and everyone, including yourself, congratulated us. But it wasn't. It wasn't a greenlit show. And we would have these meetings with Sony, and like, is it the show greenlit yet? And they're like, no. I'm like, well, because it's in the Wall Street Journal. Which is, if any paper you believe. Anyway, so
when it comes to business, absolutely, you would think.
Yeah. So, but we weren't technically. We were. I mean, they were acting as if that was the weird thing, is that we were. They were hiring, and we have offices, and but the check's not written until the check's written, and
right.
And we were greenlit a few weeks prior to E3, and I didn't go online and say it because I'm like, yeah, we know, buddy, we like, it's already been announced. You're going to come out for another round of applause. It's ridiculous. So, but they asked me to come out and announce, because we have like a date that we're going to air, and we're well underway, and it's very exciting. So I come out there, and so my wife had fitted me for the suit that I was wearing.
Yes.
And I had not gotten a new suit in quite a while. And as you know, I've been upping my dressing like an adult game.
I saw the TED Talk video. Absolutely,
yes,
sir.
And I'll tell you, did we talk about where this came from?
No,
okay,
please.
Okay, you'll enjoy it. This is a man in his 40s becoming an adult. I think he'll appreciate this. So, Matt Fraction, obviously one of my best friends in the world, and our families are so close. And a couple of years ago, for my birthday, Matt bought me a fitting at a very nice store for a shirt because he wants me not to dress like a 12-year-old. Like, he also dresses like an adult and thinks it's embarrassing that people of our age dress like a 12-year-old. And he bought me the shirt, and I didn't get it. I didn't do it. I didn't do it. I just wasn't there mentally, right? Okay. And I could tell it was bothering him, but what's going to happen? What are you going to do? So I go to a Sony meeting, and it was one of the big meetings where it's me and Charlie Houston and the other producers, and we're all in the room with everybody at Sony, like every corporate head and the presidents of Sony Television. And I put on my nice clothes, and I go in. And clearly I notice I am the worst dressed person in the room. And Charlie looks like an adult. Everyone looks like an adult. I am not dressed like an adult. The meeting's over. I turn to our mutual friend, David Engel, my manager, and I said, well, that was embarrassing. And he said, why? I said, I look terrible. And he goes, oh, no, you're the creative. You get away with that. They expect you to come in bathrobe and flip-flops. And I said, yeah, but if I'm trying to get away with something, that would be something. I thought I looked all right. I do not look all right. I'm embarrassed. And he went, oh, well, you're right. That is a different thing.
Okay.
So I came home to my wife of 18 years, and I looked her in the eye, and I said, darling, I'm going to, I want you to take me to the store, and I want you to dress me the way you think I should be dressed. And I've never said this to this woman ever in our lives, including at our wedding. And
how long have you guys been together?
18. We've been together 19 years. We got married quickly.
That's kind of what I thought. Go on.
Yeah. So that Saturday, me and her, for the first time ever, and the whole relationship is her not bothering me with shit like this.
That's why you love her.
Yeah. And as you know, I said, and I'm going to be like George Costanza. I'm going to be opposite because my instincts are wrong. My jean short instincts are incorrect. So I'm going to do the opposite of my fashion instincts. And her and a very vibrant gay gentleman dressed me, and both of them had the best time in the world dressing me, and I bought my clothes. And literally, if you see the look on my wife's face every day since this has happened, it's been months already, the look of, this is a fulfilled woman who I've never given this. I've never been able to make her have this look on her face before. This is like she just beams at me with such love, and I realized that how many years she waited in the desert, hoping for this oasis.
This is your closed bar mitzvah.
No, but it was, so anytime I need to be somewhere that I'm not on my bicycle or something, and that's the trouble too, is that most of my life is not a shirt and tie life.
Oh yeah.
And it switches like a dime. Like I literally rode a bicycle from Sony to the Cinerama Dome to do that Disney Infinity event.
Okay.
Stood over in air conditioning to blow dry myself, and then went on stage. But so I'm dressing better and better. And then as we were getting these clothes, I got this suit and I got another suit as well. So I got this suit and I was like, what will I use the suit for? You know what I mean? Who knows? We'll find out. And then this seemed to be, and Sony was sending us specs for the stage and the procedure, the whole situation. And I'm like, well, this sounds like a suit. You know what I mean? This sounds like we can bring out the suit.
Sure.
And I'll tell you, that's a big difference between comics and television as well. Is comics, when I'm thrown up on stage somewhere, I have no idea what's happening. I don't know I don't know where I'm going. I don't know what room it's in. You see, we walk to these panels, we have no idea where we're going.
Absolutely.
You've been with me. We've walked there together, and we have no idea where we are.
Indeed, I'm your escort. Absolutely.
Sony sent us like a digital spec of the entire place ahead of time, like is
it like Tony Stark going through? I just saw Iron Man 2 again last night. Is it Tony Stark going through Howard Stark's designs for the Stark Expo?
No, but they sent like visuals and how the lighting was going to work, and we had to supply them a lot of artwork. So they want to show us what they need the artwork for. But you're like, wow, look how prepared everything is. I'm so not used to this in comics. Everything's like a green room. What are you talking about? And then and in this place, it was so prepared, and and I knew everything was going on, and that's why I brought the suit. And then I bring out the suit, and everybody makes fun of me on the internet for wearing the suit.
Oh, Brian.
And listen, here's the thing: I'm not the prettiest boy in the world. All right, listen. But when you're making fun of someone's look, you know that we can see your profile pic. Like, I can see what you look like. You lunatic. I saw you. Shut up. Anyway. And as I said online that day, I really, really hurts taking fashion shots to the head by someone in their worn-out Doctor Who shirt.
Yeah, Vader 20. Yeah, TARDIS Lover 6 says.
Fuck you.
Oh, my God.
So the other hilarious bit is, and I'm so used to the temperament of comics, and I am a ball buster. So when people come busting my balls and calling me Kingpin, I have. This went on all day, and it's everyone thinking they just thought of the joke. So like by hour 3, yeah, I heard it, or okay. Could you look at my Twitter feed before you're the 900th person who made the Kingpin joke. And, but hilariously, I'm on stage a total of 2 minutes and 45 seconds. That was the total time I was on stage.
Okay.
These gamers who are jacked in or plugged in all day long, full of Jolt Cola and Ritalin and Adderall, whatever the fuck they're on.
Absolutely.
Someone come in, and literally, I came in an hour and a half into the thing, and it was an hour and a half of blood-curdling zombie footage and the most violent Mortal Kombat commercial I'd ever seen. All right, David Engel's in the back looking at this footage, and he's my manager, and he's completely disconnected from the game scene, and he's like, "Dude, this is what they give kids. This is violent." Anyway, so it was so violent, and then I come out and I talk for 2 minutes. People online, oh, shut up! You've been out 2 hours. You've been talking. So funny. And then the hilarious one was oh my God, stop talking, and then cut to, actually, what's the show about? I'm like, so just very funny. It's like being on Xbox Live, but in your face. It's like in your real life, people are Xbox Living, chatting on you, and it's awful.
Exactly. Dude, I've said this.
Turn it off.
Honestly, you can never be prepared enough to be on camera. And I even said this back in the 90s when I was doing TV for sports. And I would say, God damn it, you could have the cure for cancer, but if one hair is out of place, idiot, douchebag, you suck.
Yeah.
And it's the God's honest truth.
And I talked about talked about this a lot on Tumblr the week after. People, hey, what was that like? Because clearly, and I don't think people get that, because the only time anyone's seen me this year is on my TED Talk or on this, right?
Right.
And I know no one's seen me because I haven't left my house. It's so I'm either home alone in my room, or having what was today a 3-hour water balloon fight with my kids. I'm still exhausted. And
awesome.
Or I'm on the stage, and the stages keep getting bigger, but not by design. I just keep showing up because sure, yeah, I'll do what I'm supposed to do here, and then I won't lie to you. When the day before the E3 thing, when they brought us in for rehearsal, and I saw how huge it was, I almost remember that Larry David, remember the pilot to Curb Your Enthusiasm?
Yes, where he's trying to make the HBO special.
And then he gets on stage, and he's looking around, and he just goes, no. He doesn't do it. You're like on this humongous stage, and it's ridiculously huge. And you just look around to the literally 900 feet of Powers imagery, and look at all the seats you can clearly see from the stage, and you just go, no, I like being home. But anyway, so it is very surreal. It is not my natural state to get on stage in a suit and talk to an audience that had just watched bloodletting for an hour and a half. So. I'm thrilled I did it, and truthfully, may I say, I'm being silly and only focusing on the negative because it's funnier. But the overwhelming, my phone was like a jumping bean right after it happened. It was just for like an hour. My phone was like bzz, 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 bzz. Every 5 seconds, someone was tweeting or tumbling or texting me something really lovely because it was. It was on Spike TV. It was like everywhere, and they did say it. Like there's going to be 4,000 people in the theater, and about 12 million people watching it live. And I'm like, but it's such a ridiculous number that it doesn't even go into my head. You know what I mean? It doesn't even.
Yes.
You can't even. I just go all right, and just focus on what's in front of me. And then when you get the reaction, and it's just about the loudest reaction you've had in your life, you go, oh yeah, like a lot of people saw that. So, but I will say this to the idiots who are making fun of my suit, and this is true too. All right, this is a lesson learned, buddies. Guys are making fun of my suit, and female readers and players were literally going out of their way to say how nice I looked.
Oh, that's great.
You idiots, listen, I'm not going to benefit from any of that. You idiots need to pick up your game. All right? My wife has turned me into something that other women might enjoy looking and dressed that way. I would never done on my own, but learn. All right.
Oh, hey man, I'm losing weight, and one of the reasons I'm dying 1,000 deaths. I was when I would see myself even on Facebook and Twitter when people would, hey, it was really nice meeting John Sutras today from Word Balloon, and it's like, yeah, there's Bob's big boy, and all it's missing is the check overalls. And, my 5 chins and stuff like that. And literally, one of my friends... I know you see yourself that way, but it's funny because I know it's bullshit to even say it loud because I have the same issues. But you have a look. Like, you stand out and not in a like, oh, my God, look at him way. You stand out people remember you in a nice way. Oh, I appreciate that. Truly.
And the same thing happened to me when I shaved my head. Like, before I shaved my head, no one remembered meeting 5 minutes before. So, but once I cultivated something of a look from the shaved head, people remembered me more. So I do know what that feels like.
Well, I appreciate that, but also, and this goes back to you're saying that the image and the video from E3 and the way that it traveled through social media. This is part of the conversation in Word Balloon, and this is something different that's happening now that's never happened before. And Zachary Levi's interview, you haven't heard it yet. It's on the show after Hickman.
Okay.
We were talking about that for his Nerd HQ events, and just really, and even as a television and film star, dealing with that component of notoriety, getting your message out, and John actually talked about it and how dangerous it is in terms of traveling in social media. And like you said, you're just trying to look decent.
No, I mean it's so funny, and what it was is like I could wear a shitty Superman T-shirt to every event for the rest of my life, and no one would say a word.
Right.
We wouldn't heard a peep out of anybody. And people, literally, somebody wrote me disappointed that I've given up my jean shorts.
Oh, God.
And it's not like I've given them up. Right. I just gave up wearing them to award shows. Right. So it's just funny that, like, I'm acting normal is now something to poke at me for. So the whole thing is very funny to me. And I hope people do see it, but I think it's funny. And it is.
Sure.
But how hilarious it was to get, and by the way, some of those women who were reaching out to say nice things to me about the suit, I could tell were those pity. They saw people making fun of me, so they wanted you looked okay.
Sure.
I wasn't. Just so you know, I'm not completely out of my mind. I'm very, very.
You're grounded. You understand.
No, but I know a pity F when I see one. So and by the way, nothing wrong with them. I appreciate them, and that was very nice. But it was very funny that you'd get like just like you know troll monkeys just bashing my head in, and then someone goes, "You look okay. You don't let them say mean things to you. You hold your head up high, young man. You look good in this suit." So, but as I said online, I will be wearing the suit for the rest of my life. You will never not see me in the suit like Adam Sandler in Punch Drunk Love. I will wear it until it starts to scare you.
Well, this kind of explains Kevin Smith's, constant hockey jersey, jean shorts persona that is always, stuff. And yeah, you're right. There's that expectation.
By the way, I think his hockey jersey might cost more than my suit, though. So it's a little different. That might be a super fancy hockey jersey.
Well, they are custom made, and it has this Smodcast.
Yeah, I'm telling you that thing might be an illusion. So anyway, but it was a really great experience, and certainly it's I can't see there's been literally no downside to us having this fantastic a platform to which to promote the books and to promote the idea of it, and people will see in about a year. People will see what PlayStation is trying to do, and how it's just just like Netflix, and just what television is going to be is this a la carte kind of who's ever got the best original programming, and you know what I mean. We're going to be subscribing to those things more than we give a shit about network television. So I actually think that there will be a time where network television is a lot more like this, where you're subscribing more than you're tuning in. So we will see.
No, it's gonna. That's what I'm saying. The change is happening, and it is very interesting to be ringside as it's happening, and luckily get people that are willing to talk about it as it's happening as well. And just the change.
I will say when this offer came to us, and we had more than this offer once FX was done with us. But this one went, you know what I mean? This one was like, this interests the shit out of me, So I'm very happy to be part of it. And I heard you and Jonathan and those guys talk about it. My relationship to the show is more different than his. I'm much more actively involved. Charlie is running the show. And doing so immaculately, and I'm hoping to get him on the air with you.
It would be my pleasure.
Yeah, and I bet more closer to the launching the show. Maybe me and him will come on together and talk, because he's a fascinating dude. And,
I've wanted to talk to him for years, absolutely, and now with his involvement in Powers, absolutely. So yes,
it's a gigantic relief that he's such a good dude too. It's nice, you know what I mean? Because now we're kind of married, and you want to you want to like each other, and I'm liking him a lot. I'm really, really happy with the choices he's making, how he's handling things. So, and we are just so people are at home. We are knee deep in casting. There's going to be a lot of announcements over the next couple of weeks, probably leading up to San Diego. But lot has gone on behind the scenes the last couple of weeks. I have to keep my mouth shut about, including who our awesome director is. And it's just very exciting.
Excellent. Has the question come up of, will there be a gaming component to the presentation?
Yeah, I mean, there's actually a gaming component in the show. There's a character that is involved in something online that is a plot thing. It has nothing to do with PlayStation or Sony. That I think once we're filming and we're rolling down the hill, that I think that we should have something the real that matches what's going on in the show. But that's we have to get the show going first. That's the most important thing.
Okay, so
I would absolutely welcome it wholeheartedly. So.
Yeah, I was wondering, given the platform. So you're saying dramatically there's a gaming
dramatically
component.
there's this little thing. It's a tiny thing, but there's a bit of gaming that goes on with one of the characters, not Walker Dina, obviously.
Right.
But I think like, Powers is such a part of the culture in our book.
Yes.
It is an illustration of how it's part of the culture in the show, and I think that we should actually just make that game. I would actually like to play that game. So,
that's cool.
So we'll see if that can happen. You're already just asking the question. You can see how there are choices here available to us.
Exactly.
That are different than normal. And
right, that would have been
available. Will be watching the show in differently, and just how in the small amount of years that Netflix has completely flipped the switch on everything that is television.
Yeah.
That it's not even done. You know what I mean? We're going to look back on this Orange is the New Black stuff and think how quaint it is.
Yes.
You know what I mean? But I will say though, here are the pluses for people who are unclear. So we have a 10 episode first season, and with that, much in the same vein as like True Detective or something. Charlie, who is a crime writer, a fiction writer by his day job. This gives him an opportunity to craft with the other writers a 10 chapter crime novel for television, and that means it's not a pilot. And and I'm watching a lot of pilots this week because I got all the pilots for the fall.
Awesome.
And I saw the Flash. And with every pilot, it's just crammed full of exposition, and you have to know like everything that's making every character tick in the pilot. You know what I mean? In the 40 minutes.
Yes.
And sometimes it's done very well, and sometimes it's done with this vomitous exposition of that's why we got married 10 years ago, and other lines of dialogue you never hear in real life. But we don't have to do a pilot. We just get to do chapter 1, and that's super cool. We don't have to give it all away in the pilot. It's so awesome.
Well, that's the thing. We've seen so many pilots that, as you say, are disappointing because they're exposition heavy. But by the same token, God, Lock and Key, Global Frequency, all these woulda couldas that have come over the transom.
The Powers FX pilot.
How you doing? Which I still haven't seen, and I hope to one day. I would love to see it one day, whatever.
We'll see.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's all right, bud. It's all you. It's good. But no, that's the thing. And,
it's better than the Wonder Woman pilot, I'll tell you that.
One of my favorite things that ended up not happening was Jesse Alexander, great collaborator with Jeff Loeb back in the day. Was doing a science fiction show for NBC, and it was going to premiere right after the Winter Olympics a couple years ago, and they shot a pilot.
Yeah, what show was that? I remember that.
Was it called Day One, I believe?
Yeah.
And Jesse and I even talked about it while it was in production and stuff, and everything was like set to go, and like I said, they shot like a $3 or $4 million pilot, and never mind, plug's been pulled, see you later. Hasn't seen the light of day. Jesse's on Hannibal and other shows and stuff like that, and is doing fine, much like our other screenwriter friends like Alan Heinberg and the like and stuff. I mean, they
well, I tell you, it is.
It's expensive.
And this is the thing. Television is a very exciting medium, and when it's great, it's fantastic. And but you can do a pilot every season that no one will ever see. You can work them. My heart breaks. These guys have worked their ass off.
Right.
And some of them, by the way, some of them just don't come out well. And it's a good idea. It's a good script. It's a good. And I've seen a lot of failed pilots. I actually grab as many as I can get my hands on. I'm fascinated by them.
Absolutely.
I'm able because where I am now, and I can get my hands on a lot of this stuff, and I examine them because it's just fascinating. And sometimes it literally just sits there like a fish, and you couldn't put your hands on why, or it's just a bad soundtrack choice, and the whole thing sings, and it's absolutely fascinating. Or just one casting decision is a little off, or one actor's decision is a little off, and the whole thing is And so
right.
The one that I think about a lot, it's called Beach Lane, starring Matthew Broderick, and it was written and directed by the guy who created News Radio. And this was a big, high-profile NBC pilot from a few years ago, and I was dying to get my hands on it when it didn't go, and watched it, and so news radio, it's shocking. It's like it's news radio starring Matthew Broderick in a hotel instead of it's in all the characters exactly the same. And,
wow!
But it didn't work. And the King Kong of failed pilots is Beverly Hills Cop from last year.
Yes,
which I have seen, and numerous times because you cannot believe what you're watching. You can't believe it. So and that it was a very high testing pilot because when Eddie Murphy comes on, for people who don't remember, this pilot was about Axel Foley Jr., Eddie Murphy's son, played by the guy whose name I can't remember, but he was Al Pacino in Tropic Thunder, so people know who that is. And did you ever see you know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah.
So it's him, and it's just, boy, oh boy, it's just a pilot that doesn't work on any level, and it's by Sean Ryan and directed by Barry Levinson, and Eddie Murphy's in it, and it doesn't work. And when Eddie Murphy shows up every 20 minutes, you're like, oh my God, Eddie Murphy could just be in the show.
Please.
When he leaves, you're like, crickets. Unbelievable. I've never seen anything like this. Yeah. Top to bottom doesn't work. The story doesn't work. The premise doesn't work. The premise of Beverly Hills Cop is a fish out of water story, right? But there's a part of every major city, including Detroit, that has a little Beverly Hills in it now. But there's always some high-end coffee place or blah, blah, blah. So that idea doesn't work anymore. Because it's all, it's all even, he doesn't know what a donut is? It's crazy.
Right.
So anyway, I'm all over the place, I know, but I'm fascinated.
No.
But Pies doesn't work, and as I said before, that's why so many TV people come looking to comics, not to get their ideas out there, just because, you know what, it'd be nice I would do all this work that somebody sees it. Because sometimes TV guys have to sit out a couple of years without being on TV. Just because that, there was a cyclic nature to the pilot season. That's all going away quickly as well. But wouldn't it be, in comics, if I have an idea and I want to show it to you, boom, there it is. You know what I mean? Even in the most corporate mainstream things, if I have an Iron Man idea, I'm pretty sure I can get it out there, but if you're writing a show about something like that, a lot has to happen to get it on the air. You got like CBS that only has 2 open slots on their schedule because they had a good season, and you're one of the 80 pilots. It's a lottery ticket.
No, but that's what I meant too, in terms of it's such an expensive lottery ticket to produce, and obviously Netflix and now PlayStation and Amazon Prime is doing it as well. With Alpha House is a great show. I like Alpha House.
Yeah, I like it's on my list of things. I'm in the middle of Hannibal right now.
I understand. I'm way behind on Hannibal. I can appreciate that, but that's the thing. It's and that's the other interesting thing, that they do greenlight Hannibal for a season, or AMC right now, Better Call Saul has already been guaranteed 2 seasons, before it's even premiered and stuff like that, or at least. Yeah,
I didn't know you could do that. I want that.
Yeah, no.
we have a big meeting on July 1st, and I think that's going to be my opening joke, and I'm sure I'll be the 90th person who've done that joke on them since. Is this our second season pickup meeting? No? Okay.
Can I ask about, do you have more questions? If you have more questions for me, that's fine. I'm just going to... Okay, great. That's awesome. I love you.
But I do want to, truthfully, I celebrate what you've done, and I'm relieved that it's there. And it was a perfect example the other day when I get that itch, and I know you do too. I want to hear someone talking about stuff, and your Jonathan Hickman interview was where did I see? Where I saw it mentioned? Someone was misquoting it on Tom Brevoort's Ask Tumblr.
Hilarious.
And someone said, "Does it bother you that Jonathan Hickman refuses to promote any of your stuff?" Which is not what he said. And then someone goes, "Well, here, there's somebody misquoting him from Jonathan Hickman, from John such as an interview." And awesome. I go, "Oh, I must hear this." And of course, that is not what he said at all.
Hilarious. Yeah. And Tom,
he could not have been more clear in saying, just so people know, that he wants work to speak for itself, and he's getting more and more, he's trying to shy away from the cult of personality and just make the work, right? could not have been more clear. And someone wants to interpret that as he hates everything.
Well, and again, that's why I appreciate the clarity of hearing you guys in your own words say your thing. Because Tom, occasionally, every few months, and Jim Lee has done it before as well, and you've done it, and we've talked about it on the show and everything, has said, I miss, just like you did, and I miss them too. I miss Amazing Heroes. I miss, I'm really bummed Comics Buyer's Guide went away. I tell Wade all the time when we hang out and stuff, dude, I loved Amazing Heroes. And
I loved it. My first published work.
Yeah, your Superboy. I've seen it, sir. Absolutely, I remember it well. I didn't.
No, I know what you're going to say. You're right, because for years, and we're the grand old gentlemen of comics. For years, when we wanted to get inside baseball, there were publications that we went to, and it took me a couple years to realize that though those publications are few and far between now, not completely gone, but few and far between, that your show had replaced that, and that I should remind myself of that when I'm feeling that itch, So you're right that it took us, because we're just that we grew up with Amazing Heroes, and then we go, where's Amazing Heroes? Oh, it's on John's show. So
that's awesome.
You just got to remember that. So I celebrate you, and there you go.
Excellent. Well,
I'm proud of you for answering who was the worst interview question. That was cool.
Oh yeah.
That was
good. Oh no. At this point, it's like, all right, what the hell? He's not coming back, so, and it's okay. And God bless you, Marv Wolfman. You're a genius writer, and thank you for your body of work.
Yeah, absolutely. And answer the question next time. Someone asks a question. You answer a question.
Yeah, maybe. But I was going to say that I am. And I get it, and I appreciate, and that's why eventually there will be the Word Balloon book. And the only thing that's keeping me from transcribing this, my point is that Jim Lee and Brever are like, well, I don't have time to listen to a podcast. I'd rather read it. And it's like, hey man, I can appreciate that, but even just doing this conversation, takes its time, and making it nice and stuff.
But and again, using Jonathan, and I would say our conversations as well. A transcription will be fine, but I think so much of it is in tone that I think it's meant to be listened to.
Absolutely.
I wouldn't mind before a book. I don't think a best of MP3 of some MP4 of some sort wouldn't be out of the question.
Oh no, and that's another thing that I've considered and would like to do as well. I have the unfortunate but fortunate problem of having a day job that does pay me well, and I love Word Balloon and would love to do this full time if the gods smile upon me and the audience does. I have Patreon, the subscription base, and the Word Balloon audience has responded, and I appreciate that, and it continues to grow, and I would imagine awareness of John's interview and your interview will only help grow the audience more. But, if I were able to do this full time, you would see a much more thriving and active Word Balloon website and programming and content that would address every possible avenue of getting the word out. It takes time, and I'm a one-man band.
You should quit. You should quit your job. Stop your whining and quit your job. What's going to happen?
Radio.
You'll starve to death. What are you going to do?
The things, well, yeah, exactly. The things we've talked about and the exciting platforms that are now available through new media, and obviously, PlayStation, Amazon, and all that, Netflix certainly, Hulu. Radio faces the same challenges, or I should say, even audio programming, and it's weird that there is still this barrier. It seems when it comes to, because people will watch videos on YouTube. But it seems like audio is still finding its footing in this.
Yeah, I know. I can see that. And I do think it's more of an ageist thing. I think there's just some people.
Probably.
Again, I have no problem listening to the show, but I have to remind myself that what I'm looking for is in that format. And also, I've dedicated my life to Howard Stern and that show.
Yeah.
There's only so much I can listen to.
Yeah, but that's great. But that's a great example. And Howard had to. Go to Sirius, and luckily had Mel Karmazin, who understood the product and everything, and is older than Howard, but gets it, or has lieutenants that get it. And this is the barrier that for whatever reasons, and I don't know what the answer is, and this is something that we struggle with in audio. What is it going to take? Charlie Rose in the last 2 weeks had a great roundtable in Brooklyn at their art center with Radiolab and Ira Glass from This American Life, and Kurt Anderson, who co-founded Spy Magazine back in the day and does that great show Live from Studio 360. And these are great national public radio people that really understand how to make exciting, compelling audio content. Straight up interviews in the case of Kurt Anderson, but with polish and stuff. The audio stories that you get on Radiolab and This American Life speak for themselves. And that's the thing. Audio can be exciting, and that's why I am glad that I get the response that I do from people that get it and like it and appreciate the areas that I go to just in a basic, simple one-on-one interview. But that's like, there's my mountain that I am climbing. There's my molasses that I'm like kind of trotting through and trying to kind of move forward.
There's an argument that says you're not done with what you're doing yet. So you don't have to beat yourself up about like these best ofs or whatever. You're still doing it. So you'll know when it's time, and you'll know what format to do. And when you find it, nothing will stop you from doing it.
Well, dude, you told me it took, 10 years of working hard and making your comics before Joe, David gave Joe a comic and said, hey, you should check out my buddy.
Yeah, that's right.
And so I get that. And I mean, I'm only on year 9, so I'm optimistic. I mean, it's good. No, and really, I mean, the wonderful thing is new listeners pop up all the time. They say great things, and I really do. I appreciate that, and I appreciate the people that get it. And the best thing they can do, as I say on most shows too, is let somebody like it. And I mean, just like I'm glad that somebody said something stupid about the Hickman interview, and it made you go, oh yeah, I haven't listened in a while. Let me hear what he said. And God,
also, I didn't feel like calling John, and I thought that'd be a nice way to like catch up on John without having to call him. That's nice. So.
Carl Kerschel and Cameron Stewart were looking for good podcasts to listen to, and some of my fellow podcasters, Graham McMillan was like, you should listen to my show. And I'm just like, hey, man, I don't know if you guys listen to Word Balloon, but, you might like it. And both are like, oh, no, we like your show, John. And I'm like, oh, that's awesome. And I've approached Cameron Stewart of coming on before, and both guys will come on, which will be great. But that's the thing. It's like, oh, man, I take nothing for granted. So it really does mean when I meet creators at conventions, it's ridiculously flattering.
I had a weird Cameron Stewart. I've never met the dude in my life. And Nick Bradshaw had some family emergencies and hasn't been able to finished Guardians for the last couple of months, and so we got some. So Cameron came in and did a few pages, and that was very nice. But it was, it was barely collaboration because, he just swooped right in, and then by just the weirdness of life, ended up at my house for dinner the next week. He was in town with us.
Oh wow!
Scott Alley. We do our Friday night dinners, and Scott goes, "Can I bring Cameron too?" I was like, "Yeah, that's funny." I just almost worked with him 5 minutes ago. So it's nice.
That's cool. And by the way, Scott's another really great guy that every time I see him is incredibly kind.
Do you have him on the show? He's an interesting dude.
A very interesting dude, and I appreciate his taste. And I'm really, God, man, he has really smiled on so many Chicago.
And your Diana interview.
Oh, God bless you, son. Yeah, I was. She's a doll. And shame on me for not having her on for so many years. I had her on back in 06.
Well, no, first of all, she is not looking to do any shows. She is, John thinks he's anti-social media. She's Diana. But, Diana is a very important person in my life. I'm teaching, and I have the book coming because of her. So, yeah, she's very important. And I liked hearing her on your show, and that was a perfect example because Diane is someone you need to get all the flavors of before you can really get into it,
Yes.
And your show is the perfect place to do that. So,
Oh, thank you. Well, it's kept me from talking to some really important people in comics like Terry Moore and others that I don't feel like I'm up to the conversation yet. And I really don't. What I say about everything and my turning point much with your clothes choices and stuff, and I think because we're all near that age where it's like, all right, what am I, like you said, George Costanza, it's totally true. I say, I've been taking the wrong turn for the last 20 years. Let me start going the opposite direction and see what happens. And I don't want to half-ass it. And that's always a thing that I'm like, God, I would really like to talk to this person, and I'd be okay. I can handle a con floor interview. Mm-hmm. I can handle 10 minutes with somebody. But to really do what I try to do here, I don't want to.
You need to have something to talk about. and you don't know which one's gonna Warren Beatty you and just not talk.
Right, or Marv Wolfman.
Marv Wolfman, but like Warren Beatty did that to Howard Stern years ago. You can see it on YouTube if you want. It's hilarious.
I'd like to see that because I have seen Warren Beatty be.
Yeah, I can't remember. It was either Bulworth or Dick Tracy. Now, the one I remember the most that was hilarious, and we have talked about this the best, was Premiere Magazine interviewed Warren Beatty for Dick Tracy, and then after every question, they would note how much time has passed since he answered it. like why is Madonna in the movie? 21 minutes of silence, and then you get your answer.
Wow.
Yeah. So Howard had Warren Beatty, and Warren Beatty is one of my storytelling heroes. And
we've talked about Warren Beatty.
Yeah, absolutely, not personal. Storytelling heroes, and he was on Howard's show, and it was when he had the E show, so you can really watch it. And Howard was like, "Oh God, Warren, it's dead air, dude. You have to have an answer."
That's hilarious. So I really want to see
God
this
in
now.
heaven. And what Howard refers to as the worst interview is the Beastie Boys. They came in and just would not answer straight, and he couldn't find a level. So I just find it fascinating. Anyway,
that's funny, and especially how many interviews Howard has come in, to fuck with people and stuff.
No, but how many world class? Why you're never going to get a better interview out of this guy than Howard. I think Howard's the best. Howard had Jason Biggs on this week, and it was fucking fascinating. I just said Jason Biggs and fascinating in the same sentence. It was riveting radio, and I was halfway through, I cannot believe how interesting this is. Anyway,
his Piers Morgan interview was interesting, and that really shocked me because there's there's a guy that I don't know, always seems to have he goes for the jugular and stuff in his interviews, and they had a very interesting conversation.
Yeah, but Pierce is kind of doing Howard, so but you can't tell it because it's the accent. But he's taking pages. He's taking pages from Howard's book, and so Howard. There was a sister version of that interview on Howard's show, the same day. So listening to either one of them on Home Court Advantage was interesting.
Okay, because I'm talking about when he was in studio. I mean, I saw it on YouTube.
Yeah.
I saw it on YouTube.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, and I would also say that a lot of the British, interviewers really do have that edge to them even before Howard. Frankly, I mean, this is something that it's part of that tabloid journalism way they do things over there and stuff, and they're not afraid. And they feel, in fact, it's their obligation to be a devil's advocate with whom they're talking to really elicit well, wait a minute, you can't get away with that. You got to answer this question.
Absolutely.
And so it's always interesting stuff. Do you have real fast the D23 stuff and everything? What is that like?
I've never done D23.
So what the thing you did for the Marvel Xfinity?
Oh no, that was a separate thing.
Or Infinity.
Okay. The Disney Infinity thing was they were announcing the next set of Disney Infinity, which you don't have kids, so you don't know. This is a pretty huge thing. This thing.
I remember the Mickey Infinity thing.
Go on. The fucking Disney Infinity. It's literally you take an action figure, it's like Skylanders. You put it on the platform, and that action figure appears on your screen, and you can literally do whatever you want with it. Right? You can build a world for it. It's just great. And so my girls. They smartly got those Frozen characters out on the thing immediately. So not only do they have little Frozen dolls in the house, but you put the Frozen doll on the platform, and then they can run around a video game. They love it. So the next set is, and I got to be careful because I literally don't remember what's been announced because there's a lot of stuff that hasn't been announced yet. But it's a very big Marvel set, and it's it's going to be great, and it's fun. It's for kids. I mean, for all, I shouldn't say kids. It's like family entertainment. That's something like a parent plays with their kids, and so it's super super cute and super super cool. And then they had a big announcement, like a big Disney show to announce the thing, and so they had me and Joe and Clark Gregg, which you will be happy to hear. I finally got to sit backstage and just nerd out on his face, all over his face. I did it. But it was cool because
State and Maine talk, absolutely.
No, because
man.
you can just tell it's just been wall to wall Coulson for him.
Sure.
And he's thrilled. You can see he loves being Agent Coulson.
Oh, absolutely. Oh,
but
yeah.
When I turned to him and started talking about State and Maine, he lit up. He was like, "I'll talk about State and Maine." And he said, he goes, "I want you to picture this." He goes, "My college professor was David Mamet. His assistant professor was William H. Macy, and
that doesn't surprise me.
Sitting next to me in class was Felicity Huffman."
Wow.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I said. So, Joe was sitting there watching me and him talk, the deep nerd talk. I mean, deep Mamet nerds. I mean, this is deep inside, right? And you're from Chicago, so you'd get some of this. But
Absolutely.
You could see as far as Joe knew, we were talking Chinese. He had no idea what we were saying.
That's hilarious. Yeah, I know Chicago theater people that were taught by Mamet and Macy and stuff.
Yeah.
So, that part didn't surprise me. That Felicity's in the class, that's even better. Holy shit.
Yeah, and of course, I immediately confessed how badly I fucked up my Mamet interview to him. And he went, "Oh, no, he handles that stuff great." I go, "No, he handled it perfectly. It doesn't mean I didn't fuck it up. I fucked it up." But it was...
I look forward to you hearing Studs' interview. And that's why... Studs is one of my radio, my interview gods. My interview gods really are Charlie Rose, Terry Gross, and the late, great Studs Terkel, because for every day, 5 days a week on WFMT, this classical radio station, they'd give him an hour from the 50s through the early 2000s. And this man would just, I guess through the 90s, and this man would just do these incredible interviews with everybody. And slowly they're building this archive. They still have the reel-to-reels. They have all the stuff. It is so worth finding. Archive.org has several dozen. And my God, he talks to Fellini.
I want to hear this. Yeah.
He talked to Janis Joplin. He talked to Ali. I mean, everybody that made a difference. He talks to Arthur C. Clarke in 1959, and they're talking about the space race in 1959. And, we'll see if there's atmosphere on the planets once we get to them. I mean, it's incredible. And it's just these great time capsules of these people. Laurie Anderson, the new wave, the woman that did Superman back, Lou Reed's companion, I believe, near the end of his life. She does an amazing interview. Studs was the man, and I actually had the pleasure of interviewing him for a sports documentary that I made for radio, and seeing him at a couple book signings, and he came to our sports station to promote one of his books one time, and was just a fascinating, really important guy. And this is the kind of conversations that I enjoy. So you did say that there are a few others, and honestly, I welcome more shows that try to do what I try to do. And honestly,
you've always said that, but I know you don't mean it. The thing is that I'm joking, of course. you always say that, but I know you want to destroy them.
Oh yeah, fuck.
And you laugh hysterically if they all fall down.
Glad when they fail.
You look back at your 9 years, and you look at the bloated dead corpses of the people that fell in your wake, and you laugh and laugh and laugh.
It's true. I grind them on my heel, man.
Yep. You think back at that Chicago, that Wizard Chicago Con where they had the podcast alley. Where are they now? Nowhere.
Some aren't there anymore. Some are still around. It's all good. But yeah, who else? Who else do you like?
Who else do I like? Yeah. Me? No one.
All right.
No, I'm just being silly, but I listen to a lot of stuff, and I just can't stand the everything mainstream sucks, everything indie is great nonsense. It's just such.
It's too easy.
It's not even easy. It's just not true.
It isn't true.
There's
you're right.
Equal amount of shit everywhere. You know what? Guess what? Some of the image books are shitty. Some of them are fantastic.
Yes.
Some of the Marvel books are shitty. Some of them are fantastic. Some of the DC books are shitty. Some are fantastic.
Absolutely.
Just stop it.
No, I agree with that, and I do.
And just as many indie publishers fucking over creators as any with
That's true too. Absolutely,
I guess that's what you mean by easy. It's just easy just to say these blanket statements. And
they're not really reading. They're clearly not reading.
Yeah, and it's. So I get when a podcast goes off on one of those rants, or you can clearly tell that the host of the show would do whatever gig Marvel or DC gave them in a second, in a heartbeat, when they're bitching, right? And they go,
yeah.
Would you like to write the next Marvel event? Okay, yes, yeah, thank you. So if that's the case, you just I zone. You know what I mean? I lose interest because I'm not going to learn anything from this back and forth.
I know you like the guy, and I'm going to point out Jimmy Palmiotti always writes very interesting DC books, and they fly under the radar. And some are allowed to continue for a while. Jonah Hex is wrapping up finally, but he's had a wonderful, long, extended run on that. Harley Quinn is a very, I'm telling you, that's
a big stinking hit, that book, right?
I hope so, and I think
it's like number 3 or something. It's huge.
Okay, that makes sense because I told him and Amanda, I'm like, this is you guys doing Kurtzman and Elders, Little Annie Fanning.
That's true. That's funny. I never thought of that.
It totally is, man, and it's like, that is really exceptional, and it has nothing to do with what's happening with the Justice League or Batman or any of the big franchises. And there it is, and it's great. Yep. And there's a DC book that is just amazing, and I'm glad to hear that it's doing it. I don't pay attention anymore to the numbers because I don't know, man. I just games.
They are. There's no reason to read what you see online. They're just wrong. They're just incomplete and wrong. And
they're incomplete. Absolutely.
The binge reading has become such a huge part of stuff that it alters the performance of a book. I mean, it really does. So, I know I've been screaming this for years, but people come at me with what they think. They think they have the inside scoop, and they literally have like a fourth of the picture at best. And yes, you can tell the books that are very low on a certain chart are probably doomed. It's not like they're number 300 on the diamond chart, but they're really number 1 on some other chart. Of course, that's not the case, but there might be something going on digitally with that book or internationally with that book that will keep it alive way past what you wouldn't think its expiration date is. So that's all I'm talking about. So yeah, the numbers, and they shouldn't. And also, I think numbers sometimes taint people's respect for a book or appreciation of a book, and it has absolutely nothing to do with how the book was created. So that's all.
Or the quality.
And by the way, I have been a victim of the opposite, where a book sold way too many copies, and then like if it's sold over 100,000 copies, then it should make you orgasm. Or shoot gold out of its ass. You know what I mean? And that's not true either. So it's an interesting. Sorry, I'm scratching my face here. I'm a little itchy.
You're allowed to itch.
I know, but it's bad radio form, and I apologize. I sound like Jeff Loeb.
Man, I can't. He's supposed to come out post San Diego, man. I hope he does, and I look forward to it. I hope he hears this. That is awesome.
Yeah, it's okay. Yeah,
I miss him.
I visited the Jessica Jones writers' room in my last trip to.
Talk to me. Oh, I'm so glad you said that.
Yeah, that was my weird E3 week. I went from the Powers writers' room, which is a real thing, where I have an office, to E3 in my suit, to where the 8,000 watts of light were hitting my bald head. And then the next day I went and visited Melissa Rosenberg, who I had not met before, and the writer's room of Jessica Jones. And it was very nice, and we talked. I mean, it was nice because there are very few rooms in the world where I can walk into and actually really be an expert in what's being discussed. It's quite the opposite most of the time, where I stand behind my wife and nod like I act like I know what's going on. And but in Jessica Jones' room, someone has a question, I have an answer. So that was nice. It's nice to walk in a room one time this year and not sound like an idiot. And they seemed all very nice, and they asked all the right questions about her. And from what I saw and smelled, and that they're on the right track there. So fingers crossed. I hope it's a good show. I really do.
So would you put your involvement with Jessica Jones in the middle of the spectrum, comparing to where you are fully involved in Powers and where Jonathan is with Pax?
No, I put it below where Jonathan is. Jonathan's a producer. I'm there if they need me. And what I mean? Like, I'm not writing anything, and I'm not like involved with the production on any level. So I don't want to miss. I don't want to. No. Sometimes people hear this stuff and they accidentally misinterpreted because they just don't understand how television works. And,
sure.
You can't you can't be on every show. Like on Powers is the show I'm on. There's, I can't, even if I was the TV guy and only did TV, it would be Powers that was the show. I can't run around and do 10 different shows for 10 different networks.
Oh, really? Well, and obviously I'm sure he's the guy who owns, or at least partially owns these shows, a Chuck Lorre or whatever. I'm sure he has people working on Mike and Molly, Two Broke Girls, whatever the fuck.
Perfect example, done back to Howard. Howard asked, J.J. Abrams was on promoting the last Star Trek, and he goes, did you watch the last episode of Fringe? And he went, no.
Wow.
And that's exactly what everyone in the room said.
Wow.
He goes, I haven't seen it yet. So,
holy cow.
So that is the reality of that.
Interesting.
So, yeah. He made it very clear it had a lot to do with getting it up and running, and then he moves on to the next thing. And trust the people are making it to do the best they can.
I can appreciate that. God, and again, going back in the past, I've heard Carl Reiner say he got involved with The Russians Are Coming during the last season of Dick Van Dyke. And, that's the film he co-starred in.
Right.
Alan Arkin won the Best Supporting Actor award for that film and stuff. And he had to hand the show to Persky and Denoff, who wrote a lot of great Dick Van Dykes from, season 3 on.
Oh, you just reminded me of something, and this answers a question from before. May I highly recommend to you the Norm Macdonald Show, which has found its legs.
I have been watching it this week. It doesn't surprise me that we are on the same wavelength.
Because there's a Carl Reiner interview, which went on for an hour and a half, was very interesting.
Hey, you did that Dick Van Dyke Show. I watch it with my son.
No, but he had interesting things to say. And the Adam Sandler show was very interesting.
I haven't seen that one yet. Go on. I watched the Ray Romano one. Yeah, it's great. We make the stuff. And
no, but Adam Sandler talking about he'll never do this host Saturday Night Live and how he got fired from the show. I did not know any of that. That was interesting.
I did. And it wasn't until Tom Shale's Saturday Night Live book that I found out what Eddie Murphy's problem is with Saturday Night Live.
No, I knew that stuff. I've read every Saturday Night Live book there is, so I didn't know.
Well, I understand, but it was that's the thing. It's things that we take for granted as viewers that we don't know what's happening behind the scenes can be very eye-opening when it finally does come to light. So I look forward to that. No, I'm teasing about McDonald, although that really is kind of how he is.
It's a podcast, and I found it very interesting.
Absolutely. No, it's an excellent show. And again, I don't even know if they do an audio version of that. I've only seen it on YouTube.
Well, I think he's made it very clear he wants the show after Stephen Colbert. I think that's even if you saw the Adam Sandler show, Adam Sandler was kind of pitching him as the heir apparent to the Late Show. And I don't think he's going to get it, but he certainly that show is a hell of an audition. So.
Interesting. Oh, I look forward to that.
Yeah.
Well, that's kind of like when Regis interviewed Letterman on CNN when he was subbing either for Piers or Larry King or whatever. It was an excellent. I mean, it was just straight up awesome, honest interview. Letterman obviously likes and respects Regis enough to really be candid and open with him, and it was great. And the whole time, Letterman's like, this is great. This is what you should be doing, Regis.
Yep.
This is the kind of show you should be doing, and that's why I see it in other. Subjects, and that's why I'm glad in entertainment these things exist. Mark Maron obviously is excellent, and he doesn't need me to say that. I mean, he's
the guy. It depends on the guest for me. I don't know why. I like the show a great deal, but if the guest is great, he's great.
Well, I can appreciate that, and that he's excited about that, and I can appreciate that. But I was asking more with you about I want there to be more good comic book shows like this, and
no, I do too. Listen, it's going to be a long time before I say this online again because if I get one more baby tantrum in my face about this, when I wish that there was just more long form journalism. You've heard me bitch about this before. Yeah. And then people just start screaming at me, well, I don't have time. I'm like, all right, and then so we agree, but I'm an asshole. Okay. So, but I pine for less hit and run, clickbait, as they call it.
Yes.
And that's what the spoilers, Rich and his nonstop, endless amount of spoiling, which one day he will be on a psychiatrist's couch, and it will be revealed to him why he is doing this. And all this stuff is noise, and I would like to say, I think this is an industry full of thoughtful people making thoughtful work, both commercially and independently, and that should be analyzed more than this hit and run stuff. But it just, our culture is just so hit and run on everything. There's no one stops to really inhale anything anymore, and there's 50 movies opening up every week, and there's new TV shows they're doing every week, and there's just everything all the time, that no one takes a minute and really analyzes stuff, and it makes me sad. So I celebrate the show because this is where we can do it. And on that note, I should say that I never finished the story about the Disney Infinity things, so we're being bad communicators. It's at the Cinerama Dome in L.A.
Classic place.
Okay,
absolutely.
And it was a very big stage, and so it was me and Joe. Sam Jackson had a tape in, and we debuted the figures, and that's all it was. But it was just this surreal day of me being at the Writers' Room of Powers, getting on a bicycle that I bought at Target for $100 and riding it across town in a shirt and tie to the Cinerama Dome, where we took the stage and announced this stuff to the world. And it's cool, and I just really like being involved in material that kids will see and will get them hooked into stuff. And though it's not the quote unquote hippest and coolest stuff, it's I got kids and I see where their eyes are, and it's cool to be part of that action. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, man, I can tell you, it's a lot cooler, exciting, a lot of fifth graders who fucking just are all in, than a bunch of 40-year-old guys at 2 o'clock in the morning yelling at me about Dazzler's new costume. Anyway,
I hear you. Well, so what, your involvement, is it to help them understand the character?
I help them push the story along in a way that was very in the Marvel tradition, and in this instance, in the way this game is, it's a different writing exercise, which I like, and it's there's a script, but what the game does is so choose your own adventure, build your own world, kind of game that it's just making sure that the voice of it is very Marvel, no matter what they decide to do. And,
Understood.
And that's where we were at, and what kind of mechanism or framework or narrator can guide them through a scenario if they're never familiar with these characters before. And there will be people who play this game who don't know who Spider-Man is. And I know sometimes that's hard for older fans to wrap their head around, but this is true. There will be 4-year-olds playing this game, and this is the first time they'll ever see Spider-Man.
Right.
And you got to make sure that the experience is, though it is not reading, that it is a similar tone that we know to be an accurate one. And,
sure.
And then from there, as they get older, they'll gravitate towards other things.
Well, that's the through line for TV and movies and gaming, and absolutely, and that's again why it's an interesting time that all this stuff is happening. This is awesome.
Okay,
man.
Can I say something? My daughter, who all year has been reading Divergent and Fault in My Stars, and all in on these young adult, these teen things, right? But reading ferociously, I'm going to read a book a week, like a real book a week on top of the schoolwork. Yeah, it's unbelievable how much she reads. And I came home and I see there's the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy is out. And I, and trying not to freak out like you just did, just trying to be a cool dad. And I go, whose is this? And she goes, oh, it's mine. And I go, oh my God, you're reading it. I literally start to cry. I'm so excited that she's reading my favorite book, right? And I go, it was based on the BBC radio play, and it's a really, I mean, you should watch the movie. It's not the best movie, but it's so good in what it, and she goes, all right, okay. I swear to God, that was her. Okay, yeah. So hilarious. I'm so happy.
I love that. That's awesome,
so
man.
Happy.
That's fantastic. Well, I hope to see her. I'm hearing. Well, I don't know. Do you want to make that public or not? That you're going to be in San Diego yet?
Yeah, not yet. I just don't know.
All right,
I don't want to say that.
All right.
But I'm
all right. There's an edit.
90% sure, but I'm
I understand.
Yeah.
If you want, we can wrap this up. But I real fast and it really will only take 5 minutes.
Sure.
I wanted to ask you like a off the air thing. So, do you want to put a button? We can put a button on it right there.
Let's put a button. Yeah, I'm trying to think if there's anything else. I just wanted to bitch about E3. That got done. I made a crack about Dazzler because that hit me last night. That was funny. And we're good. And let me. You know what? I haven't. Yeah, as long as we're here. When is this coming out? Like next week?
Yeah, I want to do it before. Like, I kind of want to do it at the end of the week if it's okay. Like at the end of this coming.
For sure. But let me end with a plug. Please forgive me.
No, please.
I have a book. I have a book coming out from.
Let's get back. Let's get back on the record. We'll make it more natural or whatever. Well, dude, this has been great, and I really appreciate it, and also
what a natural segue. Doesn't sound like we edited anything out.
Why no, not at all. And no, honestly. No, you honestly, I appreciate both you interviewing and asking questions of me and giving me the chance to talk about some of this stuff. But also,
I am immensely proud of our association and our long-form communication, where we have talked about many things many times. We have both of us have fans that just like when we do stuff. They don't particularly care for my books or your podcast. But together, they like it.
It's true. No, it's 100. And like when and forgive me for the comparison, Word Balloon listeners and Bendis fans alike. But really, like when Miller and Eisner would do their conversations,
it's just like that.
It kind of is. No, it's not like that. No, but I'm just saying that we have had so many interesting conversations from our first in 2006 to now. That really I could fill a book with just Bendis tape conversations.
And instead of it being called the Miller-Eisner collection, it's going to be called Who? And people will really love it.
What the fuck is the subtitle exactly? Yeah. What? They wrote this? Why?
No, but I do like that I have a home to which I can call you up and get a group going with and talk about literally whatever we want to talk about. And it's an honor to be part of your anniversary, and I hope you know that I sincerely mean this, because I'm so rarely sincere on this show that I know it's going to come off like sarcasm, but I'm not being sarcastic. Thank you.
No, my man, you're always a pleasure. You know that, and you've got cool things coming up this summer, and if we can, I'm hoping that we can talk before the big book comes out.
The book will be out. Look, at least you're so good at this that I was going to interrupt you with the plug, and you just let me plug. This is so good.
That's the segue that is edited stuff. Yeah,
you are a professional radio person.
I work in radio.
I have a book coming out called Words for Pictures. It's coming out from Random House / 10 Speed Press, and it is a book not how to write like me, but how comics are made, the business of being a comic writer, and it is a collection of thoughts and ideas and communication from what I consider to be some of the best minds in the business. And I will tell you, and I think John will agree, the price of admission of this book is worth it, just for the chapters, the Editors Roundtable and the Artists Roundtable, which are insanely fascinating insights from people who know what a writer should and shouldn't do. And I'm very excited about the book coming out. I'm so rarely this happy with something, because I do bathe in the waters of self-loathing on a daily basis. But this one, I'm going to allow myself some pleasure and enjoy this book coming out. I have a final copy of it here at the house. It is a fine package. I'm very, very happy with it. It is fun and classy. And I can't wait for it to come out, because so many of you reach out to me so often about your dreams and desires to be a storyteller, and I'm happy that I have this collection to show people that hopefully will get them where they need to go. So
we've been teasing the book both in our conversations. Fraction and I talked a bit about his contributions to the book. Brubaker does a really great chapter Absolutely no. You guys were kind enough. The publisher was kind enough to send me a galley version of the book, and I've gotten to read it. I want to see the final copy because in a galley version you don't get you get all the text, but some things aren't left out, like some of the images and stuff.
Yeah, no, we were still working on it when they were sending out the galleys. And
I figured.
But I'll tell you, it's comics are so hit and run. Even the big books, you're just constantly moving. That this working on a book, and there's actually like a PR person who's in charge of sending out galleys and stuff, and you're like, wow, a real publisher.
It's cool. No, absolutely,
yeah,
man.
It's very. They've been amazing, and it's just a dream come true to get to a place in my life where I could put a book like this together and not sound like an idiot. And I'm so glad that the people. And there's one gentleman named Patrick Barb, who's my editor. You guys will see him online, and he came to me with the idea of the book, and here it comes. And I'm just relieved and thrilled with it. So I can't wait for it to come out, and people can read that instead of yelling at me online about why this isn't their script work.
There's a link for it to buy through Amazon right on wordballoon.com, right on the front page. So if it hasn't, hey man, you get a
couple shekels, that bounces back a little, right? Is that how that works?
A little bit, yeah. Okay. About 4 cents a click, but that's all right. That adds up, and it's all good.
Yes.
And no, hey my man, from day one, this is my chance to say you've always been incredibly candid and appreciative of my interest in your work, and that you understood the forum that I was offering and took full advantage of it in the best way to have honest conversations about your process, the stories that you write, but also to comment on what's going on. A lot of people listen in particular to when you come on, and that means a lot. We get this inside look of what's going on and what it means. It's an interesting time.
What do you think happened in your childhood that makes you unable to take a compliment without giving one back?
Shut up. Shut up.
For the next anniversary, that's what's going to happen. I'm going to say something nice, and you're just going to say thank you. And that's it. You hang up the phone.
All right, fine. So,
no, I do appreciate, dude. I appreciate that.
Absolutely.
I see you are unable to take a compliment without giving one. I'm unable to take one. Period. So, as we talked about many times in the past, I crave the attention so badly, and then run away as soon as it comes. So
it's all right.
You and I are quite the team.
Well, that's what makes it a fun show.
That's. So
exactly.
I will let you know what's going on, and let us try through the summer to be a little more frequent, because with Powers underway, I think I'll have a lot of cool stuff to talk about.
I'm absolutely for let's talk more.
All right, brother. Talk soon. Congratulations. Don't say it back. Just say thank you.
Thank you.
All right, talk to you later.
Word Balloon is brought to you by the League of Word Balloon listeners, my producers, if you will, because they give me the funds to keep Word Balloon going via Patreon at patreon.com. If you like the show and want to help out, it would be greatly appreciated. I'm not asking you to break the bank. Can you spare the price of a comic book a month? Even $1 a month would really help me out and keep things going. I've expanded Word Balloon the last couple years to be an almost daily podcast and provide a really great look into pop culture. And that is because I get great help from the League of Word Balloon listeners. Again, if you could help out, it would be greatly appreciated. Patreon.com/wordballoon. Thank you very much for your great support, the League of Word Balloon listeners. Now available to order at your local comic shop, it's Sal Abenanti's new graphic novel, The Hostage.
Hostage is set in the streets of Rio de Janeiro, based on the plight of the street children that live in the favelas. In the world of the graphic novel, being murdered daily, and the hostage is the evil spirit that is raised to avenge their death. Origins go all the way back to the indigenous tribes of the Amazon as the spirits that protect children, especially murdered children. The level of death that these kids have to endure every day. They have nowhere to sleep. They have no place to eat. They have to survive off of begging. There were nobody in capes that were coming to save these kids.
Pick up Sal Abenante's latest graphic novel, The Hostage. Order now at your local comic shop through Diamond's Previews catalog. Code DEC221534.